Yeah, for sure. Now, let's jump to a defensive tackle now, because this is sort of the opposite of length. We're going to talk about Calijah Kancey, a defensive tackle from Pittsburgh. Now, everybody's going to think about Aaron Donald here because it's 6'1", 281, only 30.5-inch arms. So he's a small dude. And, 4.67 at the combine. That's fast for a defensive tackle. He had a 27% win rate, which, that's better than Jalen Carter. That's basically, that's better than Jalen Carter was last year. Obviously, you have the ACC caveat versus the SEC, but this is a productive player who, when I watched him, I'm like, that's a disruptive player. Now, can he go in round one with the size that he has? Given the fact is like he's just undersized to be playing defensive tackle in the NFL.
Oh, I don't think there's a doubt that he could go in round one. Where that range is, 24 to 32, you never know. And you never know. Sometimes people get really excited about someone like that. They know how they're going to use them. Coming back to having, a really adept D-line coach is going to help. What is his upside? Look, we had an opportunity to be around a guy who's probably 20 pounds heavier. In Grady Jarrett, a guy that we picked in the 5th round, of course, he really rose to the occasion. We ended up, at the very end, almost $18 million a year. Good for him. The Aaron Donald comparison, yes. The ability for him to beat people off the line, to one gap like he does, because, I think it's amazing how quickly he can get through some of this stuff. Stay low, move around, bend around blocks, make special plays. Now, as we all know, he's going to get engulfed at times. And if some of these big old hosses get on him, it's not always easy to get away from it. But if you're strategic with them and you're smart with how you're going to stunt and how you're going to put your games together, of course, I think it's, there's a chance for this guy to make a difference. It's funny because how do you truly project to Aaron Donald? It's a little bit complicated, but I think he's a very good football player, and I think there's a very good chance that he could go in that 25 up range and not get out of the first round.
Now, you having a great historical football mind will remember this player. I think of John Randall every time I think about guys like this, right? Like Randall was undersized. Like there's you talk about great defensive line coaches. John Tierlink of the Vikings was the guy. You think about like Dolman, Randall, Henry Thomas was a 100-sack guy in his career. Keith Millard was a defensive player of the year. Like he coached, great defensive linemen, and none of those. Randall was an undrafted player out of Texas, like one of those directional Texas schools. And like he had to put a weight in his shorts to make the Vikings because they wouldn't let him play if he didn't weigh up over. And the great thing about those Vikings defenses were always like, hey, we're going to rush upfield, and if the running back runs by us, so be it. I think what you said was you have to be strategic about it. So when I think about Calijah Kancey, I think about a team like the Philadelphia Eagles, who they used a first-round pick on Jordan Davis last year. Big kid, right? That guy holds the point of attack. He can be your two-gapper, and then a guy like Kancey can be sort of a different, a one-gapper, an up-the-field guy that doesn't have to worry about the deficiencies. And this, again, when you think about defense as a weak link system, even first-round picks, I think in the NFL now, you can't ask them to do everything. And I think if you're gonna get success with this player in your system, he's got to be a guy for whom you complement with the other players on your team.
Got to compliment him. Got to be creative. When you start talking about Randall, by the way, remember Texas A&I. You're exactly right. You said directional, and those guys. There were some really good athletes coming out of there. I remember I was up in the CFL. We had people that we were bringing through Texas A&I all the time because they were just, an inch short and a step slow, but they were really good football players. So a little bit of historical.
Randall was, by the way, another defensive tackle who was a 3-tech for most of his career, and then as he got older and maybe a little bit less willing to deal with the punishment play to end, later on, much like J.J. Watt, much like guys like Calais Campbell. I like this prospect. I think again, you're looking at a guy who can be very productive in the NFL, which is exactly what you're looking for in round one.